All right. How's it going? Welcome to the Body Slam TNA post show. I am Bert, and joined as always, I'm joined by my good buddy Io. How you doing?
Doing good. How you guys doing?
I'm doing good. What did you think about this week's show?
Pretty solid show, to be honest. Big night for big showcase for the knockouts. The whole week, it's kind of been showcase for first class too. I got to give Casey and AJ their props, and good showing for Leon Slater. And finally, our TNA World Champ Trick Williams, graced his presence on Impact. So we got a little, and of course, the return of the IInspiration and Killer Kelly. So we got a little, TNA Impact, was cooking this week, and we trended, of course, up to number 8.
Which we've been trending a lot lately, it's always good to see that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, before we go into this week's show, I just want to remind everyone that this week's podcast is sponsored by Shroom Bar, the protein mushroom bar. It's made up of not psychedelics, but 4 powerful mushroom adaptogens. It has lion's mane, which increases focus, memory, and neuroplasticity, making it easy to form new patterns and learn new things. Next time you're trying to learn that new move, it might actually stick this time than forgetting it immediately. It has cordyceps, which increases VO2 max, blood flow, and overall endurance. It has reishi, which decreases stress. It has turkey tail, which boosts your immune system, and we all know you're going to need that on those nasty-ass gym mats. And on top of all that, it has 12 grams of protein. Go to shroombar.com and use code BODYSLAM at checkout for 25% off your first order. And just one more real quick, just quick note, I want to let everyone know that starting this week, check out the Body Slam Patreon. We have a free tier, but there's also a $5 monthly tier option for exclusive news and scoops. So you're going to want to check that out. Okay. With that being said, let's get into tonight's TNA tonight. Well, quickly, let's actually talk about one quick match from Explosion this week. And I kind of want to continue with what you were talking about, Io. It was Jody Threat versus Viperous. And we can go ahead and, for fun, add up at the end of the night all the knockouts that came into play this week. What do you think about this? I thought this was not only two things. I thought Viperous just, you hear all the time men and women from people who watch wrestling, how everyone kind of like looks the same gear-wise. It's kind of, a lot of people look the same, facial, like beard, hair. But I thought Viperous really stood out. I don't know, maybe it was her gear. It was the way she wrestled. But I think definitely she's somebody that TNA should keep an eye on. I thought this was a good match.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you're spot on. Like, the woman, that they bring in and we have on the roster, like, they bring something different. Like, they all have, like, their own sort of presentation and looks and appeals, and also most of them are like internationally, which is what I kind of dig for, like for a division, everyone being different. So the match, Viperous, she had a very good showing with Jody Threat, and I believe they also faced each other at the Border Brawl, the Canada USA event. But good showing. This is obviously also to to give, the TNA fans a reminder of, how good Jody Threat is now, not just a tag wrestler, but also as a singles wrestler. So it was a good showing for her too. And I really like, after the match that she called Danny, to come to the ring, give that one last bow, to Spitfire, and that was pretty good. And also, kind of parlay into like this week's show because now they're on opposing teams.
Yeah, I also kind of like the ending of this, the kind of one final Spitfire promo, and it kind of was refreshing to see one of them not turn on the other. You know what I mean? I like the mutual respect. They've been to war together. They've won championships. So, and I kind of like the idea of them maybe set up something down the road. Like, I would like to see them face each other again, because I believe there was an angle where Lars from Rancid, I believe, kind of had them face each other to see if they were ready for one of their matches. And I believe it was a pretty good match. So I would like to see them run it back down the line. And going back to, and real quick, just on Joe's comment and on your comment on Viper's being for Border Brawl, we'll circle back to when we talk about the Inspiration opponents, but it seems like that TNA has been bringing in a lot of this same enhancement talent, so it would lead you to believe that these are people who are going to be signed, because I feel like they've done this a lot lately. The people that they end up signing, you see them use quite a bit up until, and maybe they might even be signed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. With most recently, Maggie Lee.
Oh, that's right. She was signed for quite a bit, and then they kind of delayed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like our good bud Dobby the Brain Heenan shouted out, like if they're flying in, certain indie town like a couple times or at least frequently, then chances are they're likely going to get like really Slater in talks of sign ink in the deal.
Yeah, and I like that strategy too, just of kind of keeping a group of people on their radar. You know what I mean? I feel like it makes them easier to sign them or want to sign with TNA long term. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're gonna go into Night Show from Tempe. I don't know why I noted that this week, but I like the way Hannafin just kind of said it's really old school. I like how Hannafin always kind of tells you the town. You know what I mean? Gives a little shout out. And I like also how the first thing he says, we're still in the Trick Williams era. And it wasn't with really air of disdain, but you could tell that he's definitely playing the part of waving the TNA flag. You know what I mean? He's definitely not feeling it. So I like how that's still the continued narrative right now of the bigger picture of TNA.
Mm-hmm.
But so we opened up with Santana. Santana's trying to get in the building, and Santino lets him know he is suspended. But he tells him he has his word that if he adheres to suspension, he will get AJ in a match. And Santana, he said he respects him and he did go away. But no sooner than later, you see Robert Stone actually get into the building. This was funny. He was trying to sneak back in. He obviously, he's not taking his fire aim very well. This was funny.
Yeah, very, very good. I was cracking up earlier, like when Rob Stone tried to sneak his way in, and then security, threw him out, saying like, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I'm Robert Stone. Do you know who I am?" But yeah, very, very funny stuff.
I wish this would have been a running. I wish this would have been a running gag across the whole show of him, similar to Bobby the Brain Heenan on the first episode of Raw, trying to sneak in with different disguises. I wish Robert Stone would have kept trying to get into the building, because it's one of those things I was complaining about it, but then in the right spots, his comedy is very funny, and I was enjoying this. So
there's a part of me, I feel like, even though Santino won the match, I feel like we're still going to probably see a little bit of Robert trying to sneak his way in. At least, do some shenanigans and whatnot and stuff. Yeah. But as far as Santana and Santino, I think it was good. At least incorporate the feud between Santana and First Class, because it seems in Santana's mind, to get to Trek now, he still has to deal with AJ and Casey. He already took care of Casey, so AJ is the next target, and seems like seems like it's going to go down in 2 weeks.
And we kind of talked about that too. They needed a way to, especially if and I actually kind of like them doing that Trick and Santana match that early, because it just gave them a way to set up another feud in between, because they needed something for Santana to do up until that match. So I like that. And it also just kind of, in a way, they needed to get him involved with Trick somehow. So Yeah, and so him facing Santana, AJ is obviously the logical step now, and that should be a good match. I don't think, it's not like I've asked anyone, but I haven't really seen anybody I don't have seen any negative press towards AJ's match quality since he's been in TNA. You know what I mean? I think he's been at his best, and we'll talk about that later tonight. But yeah,
Right.
I'm looking forward to that match. But the show starts out with, after that, we go into the building, and Santino comes to the ring, and, he's welcome, gets a pretty big pop. Well, actually, really big pop. Well, saying he's the what do you call it? The director of authority again. But he was hyping up the champ challenge. The champ challenge. And so next week we're going to get all 5 champions on one team versus what he dubbed an all-star 5 of opponents. And, I can't wait to see who this is, but I can only imagine who will that be. And that sounds like I can't remember the last time they did this, but I'm very excited for this. What were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, the Champions Challenge, I think is a really good concept. Having champs and then all stars. They did this last year, and ironically, Joe Hendry got the pin in that match. So I kind of like when Impact adds a little different, add a little different concepts to the product. It helps freshen it, especially with the A4 match we're going to talk later.
And then of course, he talks about another unique concept. I'm surprised nobody else does it, which is the 8-4-1 match, which is basically we start out with a 4-on-4 match, and then that goes down to a fatal 4-way match, prizing of the winning team, and then the winner of that becomes the number 1 contender for the knockout match. I'm surprised we don't see this across other promotions, but this is another just TNA showing their creative side. I like this.
Mm-hmm. Same. It just goes to show, TNA always very innovative. Like, as the year goes by, like, they always be more innovative with concepts. Like, with the Ultimate X, King of the Mountain, and now we have, the 8-4-1. They also did another cool one for the exhibition. It's called the Triple Threat Revolver. If you guys want to check it out, it's a pretty cool concept.
And I'm going to get a lot of hate from this right now, but I like the unpredictability of the Feast or Fired. Okay, you know what? Even though it made no sense, because it's like, why would you go grab that brief? You know what I mean? It's wrestling. I don't think ever, when I was a kid, I never thought someone was actually fired for real. You knew they were going to come back. So somebody getting I believe Diener was just fired, and maybe or maybe not, he was hometown man. But that was a pretty quick. He came back to the company pretty quick. So, I thought Feast or Fire was fun. But the last announcement that he made was, it's on. It's Leon Slater taking on Moose at Slammiversary for the X Division Championship. I think we all saw this coming. We all wanted this. The way that the Ultimate X match ended, and then fast forward into, I think, of the match a couple weeks ago I believe it was the 8-man match where Leon Slater got the pin on Moose. I think we all saw this coming, and I think that, it's wrestling. I think we all see where this is going, and I do think that at Slammiversary, Leon Slater will break Red's record, and he will become the youngest ever X Division champion. But yeah, and real quick before I don't know who said this on. I don't know who said this on where I saw this on Twitter, but someone just was saying that, the build for Slammiversary hasn't been great. And first of all, not only do they have 6 weeks, there's no pay-per-view in June. The show's not to July. You can't when you're a company that has multiple pay-per-views a year, you can't promote one that's after the other pay-per-views you have to promote. So this is the earliest, and they have been promoting Slammiversary, but they started it the first day they could. Right here tonight, we get our first match. It's not like we needed all the matches tonight, but I thought this was a great way to kick off the Slammiversary build.
Right. And it shows too, they have trust in like Moose and Slater to be the first match announced to start the build for Slammiversary. And you can tell, like, it's gonna the weeks of build is gonna be pretty good.
Yeah. I think that that's a marquee match. So
yeah,
I think that, especially since we know, I think in our head a lot of the marquee matches, really the card just needs to fill in after that, because we know we're going to get a world title match. We knew we were going to get this match, and then after that, the matches should just fall into place.
Yeah, and I like how Hannafin run down, like, Slater. He's trying to become the youngest X Division champ before September, and then we have Moose, who's currently the third longest reigning champ.
Yeah, I like this whole segment.
Yeah.
Real quick, read a couple of comments. Hasten Terrell says hi. What's up, man? Then we got there are 3 sets of taping still Slammiversary. People are so, you know what? That's people can have their opinions.
That's the thing of the night, sure.
Yeah, it's Christopher says TNA, obviously. Okay. Oh yeah, and Santino, to transition to the next segment, he said, I forget how he said it. How did he said something? Oh, there's going to be inspiration, and then he introduced the inspiration. Is that how it went?
Yeah, he said, I think he called gasoline.
He also said Tricky Williams too. His gimmick of pronouncing so funny. Okay, so our first match, and this is kind of what I was talking about. We got the Inspiration versus Missa Kate and Brittany Brooks, and not only during the match was Tom alluding to that these two have been seeing TNA for a while. Yeah, like this is what we're saying. I think that these two could be also future signings, just because you would think if TNA continues to bring them back that they obviously like them. So I think it's as simple as that. But I thought this was, for what it was a fun match. What did you think?
Yeah, pretty good opening, for to showcase, how, like, there's not any ring rust, for the Inspiration, and they had some good offense and chemistry. I think they've since their time away, they started to improve a bit. Showing how big threats now that they are, to the current champs, the Elegance brand. And you're right, some good opponents too with Missa Kate and Brittany Brooks. Brittany Brooks, for those who know, who's Chris Bay's girlfriend. So I will reckon we'll still see more of her later. But good showing for Jessica and Cassie. Dig their tag finisher, dig the presentation, obviously, and see where it goes from there.
Yeah, for myself, a little underwhelmed by them coming back, but then being very all in with it. I'm further feeling that this week, just because the matching gear. I think the way they play off each other, it's nice seeing a established team, and then they look for not been in the ring a lot the last 3 years, they look a lot better than they did before. And they hit their finisher, which I've never seen them hit it before. They call it the I wrote it down. The Idolizer, and the best way I can describe it almost looked like a variation of a Magic Killer, like you know what I mean? Yeah. Like they kind of did the same thing, but the other girl was facing her. It was dope. It looked clean too.
A reverse Magic Killer. That's what it was.
Okay, yeah, good showing from them, and again, I do think we're going towards them versus the Elegance brand at Slammiversary, which that's a big time match. So, quick. Oh, okay, Christopher says love seeing Killer Kelly winning. Okay, we'll talk about that when we get there. Okay, next we have a Hardy promo, and they're just basically just talking about their match tonight, but then just talking about they lost, but they know what they need to do to get back to the gold. I thought this was a great Hardy promo. They've been in the business so long. They know what they're doing. They know how to tell a story. This was good.
Agree. Pumping up, the match, giving us excitement going into the main event. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Next, we get the segment of the night. And I don't care what anyone else says. This was a segment. This was the best segment of the week. We get the First Class Penthouse, and these just keep getting better and better. They come out, and you knew that two things. You knew they were going to address AJ's outfit, and you knew that, and it looked like Casey was rocking some new merch, and they did both of those things. Class Summer. They plugged the shirt, which even though they're heels, they know how to make money. You know what I mean? This was so good. They did this thing where they did a contest who could say the best money line, and they brought out young Pedro from the audience. Yeah. And I didn't think it was good, but he's a kid. I would have gave it to him, but they said no, you didn't win. This was such good heel shit. This is like something that you would see back in like the 80s or 90s. This was great.
Yeah. You remember that reminds me of a certain old legend that would kind of like taunt the fans with money.
Yeah.
The million dollar man. Yeah, Ted DiBiase.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was pretty classic there with AJ. Yeah. And yeah, like you said earlier, AJ and Casey, they're great heaters. Like they know what to say to really, incite the crowd. So I knew. Honestly, I'm enjoying every Penthouse segment. So yeah, this one's. Yeah, I think this was the first one that didn't get interrupted. Like everything went smoothly from there. So yeah.
There's certain things that always work in wrestling. I think that every time a heel has a talk show, the highlight reel, you know what I mean? One that it always does what it's supposed to do. You know what I mean? Miz TV, like it gets over. You know what I mean? So I like this. Then they brought out Tripp Williams, who was looking like $1 billion. But the new chant, which should be a shirt. Casey got the crowd chanting "First Class Trick," which that needs, and he just kept shouting it. It reminded me a lot like when I think it was a Pandemic AEW when Sammy Guevara sang Chris Jericho's song, and he was terrible. And Casey Navarro sounded horrible, but you know what I mean. He was trying. I thought this was great, and I like AJ's little note. Like, if you say First Class, we'll show up. That was good.
Yeah,
that was a great tagline. What'd you think about when Trick came out?
Yeah, when he came out, it felt fitting, like because they both have like similar styles. He feels like should be granted a lot, being the world champ, and then you have these two, AJ and Casey, who only care about themselves but still live their own first class life. So I feel like the pairing is really good. And yeah, Casey, singing the crowd, singing his own lyrics, is a way to incite the crowd, because I feel like even though Trick's a heel, like he still might get babyface cheers, and at least they're kind of trying to like balance that by having him pair with those two. So I think it's pretty good.
I also really respect.
Also, oh yeah, sorry.
You know-
Also, they also have a 6-man tag action that's coming Tuesday. It's Trick in first class against Josh Briggs, his tag partner from Noah. I forgot his name. Sorry, and Elijah.
I think his last name's Amura, Iamura or something. I believe. I have to look that up. But yes. I really like that. I like when heels don't forget things. I like the idea of long-term storytelling. I like that AJ Francis hammers home the reason that they helped Trick is because he beat Joe Henry, and AJ made Joe Henry. If you pay attention to anything AJ says, he claims that, and for you could make an argument he did. And so I like how he keeps hammering that home. You know what I mean? Like Joe didn't offer him a title shot. You know what I mean? And basically said, maybe hopefully Trick will offer him one. But I just like that idea that he keeps bringing that up. I just like long-term booking like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay. AJ, he'll never miss an opportunity to remind you of how he feels about Joe Hendry.
Yeah, AJ's so good since coming to TNA. I don't think that I don't see how anybody can watch what he's done there and not respect the work he's put in. And you have to give TNA a little credit just in terms of taking a chance on someone once again. And I think they've got to return in their investment tenfold. So,
right.
Also, we're just real quick. Just because it's Trick and Joe. I think I mentioned just early in one of our group chats. I think it's just kind of ironic that the two, Trick was just once champion, and Joe was obviously once champion of their both respective brands, and now Trick's obviously a TNA champion. But these are two guys that charisma through the roof, characters through the roof, and people might not be blown away by their ring work, but the fact that these two guys are back-to-back TNA champs, I think these are two very, I'm not going to say the most important, but I think these are two very critical world champions, because look at the eyes Joe brought in, being in the Royal Rumble, being at WrestleMania, and then the idea that somebody from WWE is holding the TNA title and is going to be defending it. You know what I mean? No one's going to say that these are two of the best TNA champions, but that's a wholly different case. We talk about the business side of it, but in terms of who's going to bring in the most eyes, I would say that we're probably looking at the two right now. You know what I mean?
You're correct. Because each reign has a different purpose, and you just said it there.
Yeah.
Like Henry's to increase the brand, create all these cool moments with the Rumble and Mania. Trick, being the first WWE talent to win that title, and see where it goes from there, creating some more interest and intrigue into this relationship. So, all the pieces are made.
Yeah. Chris says Joe Henry title reign was fine. He should have had more defenses, in my opinion. Hopefully, Trick has more defenses. Again, that's for certain title. When you're trying to establish someone as like, oh, that workhorse champion, that narrative is pretty clear. But that wasn't the. You should have known when Joe became champion that it was the same thing leading up to he became champion. He was getting over everywhere. You know what I mean? It was about maybe just him taking that belt everywhere, not necessarily defending it, but just showcasing TNA. So again, yeah, like you said, Io, it depends on the person, the situation. It's all different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Next, we're going to move into Leon Slater versus Jason Hotch, and kudos to TNA for giving Jason Hotch.
Before that, I think we had a segment with the System and Jason Hotch.
Oh, then, that's right. Right.
Yeah.
Yes, the System was basically kind of just offering, telling them how there's no leader in the system, trying to let Jason Hotch know, he could join them.
Mm-hmm.
I did like that. And was that also followed by the Cardona segment?
So then comes Mustafa, Skylar, and Tasha, and then the Order 4 in the system had like a cool stare down for like a few seconds, and then they all walked off, and then they confronted Cardona.
Yeah, Cardona. I like Cardona, the idea of him just kind of hanging out now. You know what I mean? And then he was kind of challenging him to matches, and he is always ready. So, also the system versus Order 4 in a lethal lockdown match would be very good. Maybe somebody's listening. Let's try to book that.
Yeah, a little good tease there. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I think they might feud probably sometime after Slammiversary.
Yeah, that would be good. That'd be really good. I would just mainly just seeing Eddie Edwards and Ali in the ring together would, I think, be a real treat. So just because I think Eddie Edwards has the mission of trying to have the best match every night, you know what I mean, with anybody. Yeah. So yeah, I like this. Okay. Yeah, I didn't mean to skip that. Thank you for catching that. Next, we had Leon Slater versus Jason Hotch. And again, like I was saying, kudos to TNA, because after I saw Jason Hotch versus Ali, I wasn't thinking I want to see less of Jason Hotch. So this was so good. Hotch can go. What do you think about this?
Yeah, this was an absolute banger. I was told by a few friends of mine, like, this was the match you go check out when it airs, and like, it delivered. Jason Hotch, he's been getting a good showcase. Like as we mentioned, like, this is an opportunity from the Mustafa match. It was an opportunity for him to showcase, what he can do as a singles wrestler, not just being the lackey tag team or tag team wrestler. And also this match tonight with Leon Slater, was a good showcase, and will really exemplify, the X division. And, a good showcase, to help build Leon, leading up to his Moose match at Slammiversary. But good match. I think this kind of boosted both guys. Show Hotch, he can hang for like a 20-minute match and stuff, and also keep building up Leon for Slammiversary.
Yeah, because I up until this point, I believe I have seen more Skylar singles matches, and again when they teamed up, Skylar definitely was the heavy of the group, more of the brute guy, and so then putting Jason Hotch in these matches with a lot of quicker guys, it just kind of shows that he can hang, and I not only hang, but I think he could be a future X Division champ, because we all know that teams aren't forever, so him being an X Division guy, more matches like this, I don't think anyone's going to complain about that.
All right.
Leon did get the win, but I don't think anyone is looking. I don't think anyone's selling Jason Hotch stock at this point. I think they're buying it. So this is a good match. Next, we have just a quick promo with Tessa. Kind of, continued the bullying, the Gia dynamic a little bit, but I think that's just more of. And I don't know if we're heading to something with Gia and her, but yeah, this just a typical Tessa promo. What do you think about this?
Yeah, it's just Tessa trying to put herself over, she's better than the rest. Like of course you have bullying Gia as usual. So kind of lets you know what's her mindset going into this match.
Yeah, it was more so just not really focused, and also too, I appreciate. I'm not the biggest Tessa fan, but I like the idea of her always kind of bringing up like she did everything on her own, but the kind of thing is we know who her dad is, so but obviously I know I'm assuming she knows that's a little tongue in cheek, you know what I mean? But I still like when heels do that, you know what I mean? The heels are supposed to be full of shit, so.
Yeah, heels are supposed to lie.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like the Nemesis saying like they're the greatest brother tag team or the greatest tag team just because they beat the Hardys. I mean, it's clever, you know, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, especially when they're saying it like the hyperbole and just the bullshit. Especially when they're saying it like when the Hardys are in the company with them. You know what I mean? Again, it's great. I love it when heels lie. Okay, next let's move on to the 8-4-1 match. God damn, this was good, and what a clever way to get as many people on TV as possible and do it in, you know what I mean, a little differently. You know what I mean? So we had Rosemary, Danny Luna, Tessa, and Zaya taking on Tasha, Indy, Killer Kelly, and Jody Threat. Man, I want you to start first, Al, but I thought everyone looked really good in this match.
Yeah, this was very good. I mentioned this is a good night for the knockouts because, you know, a really good show, and like they were able to I think almost like a 20-minute match between the tag and the four-way, but yeah, everyone shined, especially Indy Hartwell. Like you can really tell, like, you know, they're presenting her like first having her come out last, getting the pin on Rosemary, and then essentially getting screwed after later in the four-way. But really good showcase for her specifically. Tessa, you know, showing, you know, that seems like, you know, not even her tag partners, you know, even want to tag with her. And, you know, she got it right into it with Indy later. Who else? Oh, yeah, there seemed to be still tensions between Zaya and Rosemary, especially after the Monsters Ball. Having Jody and Danny face each other, which was pretty, you know, kind of heartstring. You know, like they just broke, Spitfire just broke up, and now they're facing each other in this tag match. Yeah, everyone shined. Oh yeah, and then you have Killer Kelly, you know, who just coming back. Yeah, everyone shined. Yeah, the tag match was pretty good. Everyone getting their sequence in, and then the four-way, and then of course, you know, for the finish, Kelly stealing the win. As you know, we'll get to it. Yeah, I'll let you take your take into this.
No, I'm glad you zeroed in on the two people that really stood out to me. First, obviously, Killer Kelly returning. I thought she did miss a beat. I thought she looked, the star power was there. She moved great in the ring. But in terms of like Indy, you know, I'm not expecting somebody to go from like 0-100 in terms of how much they improve, but you just want to see somebody like improve, you know, match to match, and everything looked much better this week. And it wasn't like she looked bad in her previous match, but the Hearst donut the finisher looked a lot better. Her movement in the ring looked a lot better from last week. And again, good on
from
TNA.
Her entrance, from her entrance to her theme song to what she's doing in the ring, like it's all pitch perfect in presentation. Like you can tell, like they're very, like she's primed to, like, for, you know, bigger things. As far as Leslie Ross, she's here in TNA.
And you know what's funny too? It's like I'm not gonna outright blame WWE, but like when you have, obviously there's somebody who takes to something naturally, but then there's obviously somebody who's a lot more raw. And if they're not gonna, and those people need a lot more like hands-on training. You know what I mean? They're not gonna like you. So obviously they just needed to like get her more reps. And like I'm just like thinking, she's been wrestling every week since she's been to TNA, and I don't think she can remember that long of a stretch in NXT. So I think they're really honing in on something with her. So good on TNA.
Yeah.
So the first fall went to Indy pin Rosemary, which I like that a lot. So it became Indy, Tasha, Killer Kelly, and Jody Threat in a 4-way match. And again, I really like this because the two people we just talked about were in the winning fall. But what'd you like about the conclusion of this? Did you like the finish?
Yeah, I like the finish. Again, good sequence. You see, like Indy, you know, doing most of the showcasing, like, and of course, you know, Tasha, and then Kelly, and then Jody. I think like these were like the great four to kind of like continue to pick up the pace after the tag match. And of course, yeah, the finish was pretty good. It just shows there's how they're protecting Indy because once she was about to get the win, and then Kelly came in and then steal the win and pin Tasha. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that too, because you look at the 8 people at the starting of the match in the pairings. Obviously, I would say all 7 of them are more seasoned than her. So either team she goes on, she's going to benefit. And so, yes, the fact that we go into a 4 match once again, she's around great work. Indy's around great workers. So I think that was only all she can go up from that point is up. So yeah. And what do you think about Kelly getting the win? She kind of stole. I like how she stole the finish, but what do you think about this? Do you like this?
Yeah. Kind of since like she came back, and also she's they ain't wasting no time having her be the next challenger for Masha. But yeah, Kelly, she had a good show. She looked real good coming back.
Yeah. So like you just said, obviously Kelly won. Killer Kelly won. She's gonna be challenging Masha. We find out it's in 2 weeks. We go 2 weeks. We go right to a Masha promo, and I kind of like it. I really like this because Masha just kind of says they always knew this was going to happen ever since they formed MK Ultra, but why Kelly was off, doing whatever she was doing, which was a total heel line. Masha, that was very heel of Masha. Yeah. She's like, I was out winning gold, and she basically said, she's going to put her in her place, and I was like, oh shit. And I personally think that I would like to see this match end in a draw and then run it back at Slammiversary. But I don't know if TNA has plans for a bigger match for Masha at that point. But I'm a little surprised we're doing this match so soon. What are your opinions on that?
Same too. Like I was kind of surprised. This is actually happening so quick. I figure probably they might have some other plans coming in for Slammiversary, but till then, it's a pretty good, interesting match. Like you said, good Masha promo to really let everyone know that MK Ultra is completely done. And Masha. Obviously she's on to like so far. Like while Kelly was was gone. Masha climbed up, rose her stock, and eventually beat Jordan, became Knockouts champion. So like she feels like she's at the she's at the top echelon right now, and then like this is dealing with and her and Kelly, this is like her dealing with like old history that she wants to wrap up. But it'll be interesting to see what Kelly's intentions are too if we ever get to that.
Spot on. You basically just said what you alluded to. That this isn't the same Masha. You know what I mean? This isn't the MK Ultra Masha. She's at the top of her game. So Kelly's in for a fight. Mm-hmm. So I don't expect Masha to lose, but that's why I'm a little. But if they were going to do this match, build it up, I would hope that Masha would drop the title to her. But at this soon, no, it's not happening. They're not going to build. I don't think it just, But again, like you said, that would shock me if she did drop the title. And it's all about shocking people. So
yeah.
Next, we have, I think, the definition of what you would call an intense promo. It was Steve Maclin, who, whoever watched it, I think you felt every word of it. He real quick talks about the champion challenge. Says he doesn't give a shit about any of the people he's in the match with except for one. And then he calls Trick out. And I like the subplot of, he thinks he's the flag bearer of TNA. I like this. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I agree. I think, Hannafin, he's been kind of showing this too, like, despite Trick being the TNA World Champ, like he's not one of us like the TNA roster. While you have Maclin, who won the international title, he's been defending it. He's kind of been like the one carrying the brand, representing. And I like how he pointed out Trick in the promo too. Like saying like hey, I have my eyes on you, even though we're on the same team. Basically, say he didn't care about anybody else, but except for Trick. So I really kind of like that. Probably like giving us a future in eye that despite him being the international champion, Maclin still has his eyes maybe someday on being TNA World Champion again.
Real quick, Dotie's in the chat.
Yeah.
Hi, Dotia. She says thanks for holding it down. Dotia, we're trying here.
Yeah,
we're trying.
Yeah. Shout out to Dotia here.
Terrence says hello. Hey, Terrence. You know what? And people, there's only so many stories ever, in anything, you know what I mean? And everything kind of copies that formula. But, this is a little bit of like when Seth was the world champion and I believe Roman was the universal champion. Seth, would refer to himself, he's not a part-timer. He's he's the one work. And this is very much that dynamic, it's not like they're copying that, but I do like that narrative that, and again, that does twofold because the same thing, the international champion is the newer belt and they need to establish that legacy. So that belt needs to be defended a little bit more than the other title. So at this point, but no, this was a phenomenal promo. Steve Maclin is so good.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Okay, next week we go to another quick promo, and I wouldn't really call this a promo. It's just more of, I don't know what would you call this Manson SDL segment? I know Tommy Dreamer got taken out. What would you call this?
Just Steph, getting her feelings out again. What was me? Like, we should still be DMC. Man should have won this. Man should have won that. It's pretty okay segment, I guess. For Mance, getting his frustrations out, on the security person, and then obviously Tommy Dreamer comes out, try to control order, and then Dreamer gets beaten up for his troubles.
So, and you know what? I'm not the biggest fan of Tommy Dreamer segments, but it's been a while. So if we end up getting a Mance Tommy Dreamer match, I believe Slamversary is in Tommy's backyard. Isn't he from New York? I could see some sort of hardcore match being made between those two at Slamversary. I wouldn't mind it. A hardcore match with Tommy Dreamer is always fun. He'll probably pull out the Dusty Rhodes pants. You know what I mean? He's gonna bring the kendo sticks. I'm not gonna hate on that if that's what we get.
Yeah.
Okay. Next we have another quick promo. And again, this is just more of like a quick run-in. We have the Northern Armory. It's mostly EY and Sami, and I don't know if I think my feet cut out. I saw them shaking hands. What were they talking about?
Well, yeah, Sami and EY, they were, basically agreeing, they're like, how both of them, they, carried and, represented TNA, especially for EY, he's been there since, since almost the very beginning. And, they're both agreeing that, since the TNA World title was in the hands of an NXT wrestler. So, yeah, they're basically kind of like agreeing, agreeing the state of TNA, how both of them have a lot of similar common, and then, have a match set up for next week.
Yeah, and you know what? While again, it was more of just a turn with an asterisk when it kind of seemed like they were baby faces in Canada, which, again, that statement, if you're from Canada, you're going to be over in Canada. I like the more getting back to the world-class maniac, Eric Young. So the way he snapped, again, and if this, I'm not the biggest fan of Sami matches as of late, but I definitely think that EY versus Sami would be one. It'd be a very brutal fight. So that's what I'm looking forward to as well.
Yeah, they faced each other actually, especially that one match where they both got very bloodied, and the one where led to Diener and the design turning on EY and so. But wasn't there good history? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and am I like making it misremembering? I feel like was there like a Callihan and Madman Fulton versus VBD match?
OV versus the design, yeah, that one.
Okay. So next we're gonna go into our main event of the night, which is first class for versus the Hardys. God damn, I love first class. Whether it's just the dynamic between them, the spot of AJ always catching KC when a dive goes wrong. I love this match. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, this was a good main event. Good main event. I kept thinking, I feel like who needs to win more between first class and the Hardys. So, for the Hardys, obviously to get them back in track, against the Nemets. First class, to keep their momentum and bragging rights, as they're on both programs. And I think, I agree. Casey and AJ, they're good chemistry, big man.
The big man, little man dynamic is.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No. You're saying that was a good, decent stuff, and as get to what happened after.
Yeah, this match ended in disqualification, and as soon as this happened, and as the more people ran out, I believe I've mentioned this 2 million times. This brought me back to when I first discovered TNA in 2009 with that huge parking lot brawl where the cops came. This was chaos. Obviously, this didn't reach the building, but I believe everyone came out in this. You know what I mean? The locker room cleared for this brawl. This was awesome. I can't remember the last time the show ended like this. This was great.
Yeah, this reminded me of always a classic TNA brawl where in the roster, throwing at it in the ring, outside the ring, and then you got the TNA chants. Always good stuff. And then
what stood out to me?
Yeah.
Oh, what now? Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, the big one was Leon Slater doing the flip dive, to end the show and stuff. Very good stuff.
Real quick, just going back to 2009 one, I always remember. It was Don West. Don West was like, I might go in there and get me some too. I'm like, Jesus, Don West, you're not getting. Oh my God, Tanae was just selling the shit out of it. But no, this was good, and I do like I like whenever they do stuff like this, just because it kind of lets the crowd know who's the heels, who's the faces, who is taking sides. But everyone. Yeah, I thought this was really good, and what a way to kind of kickstart the Slammiversary build. Exactly. Everyone's hot right now.
Yeah, everyone's in the Slammiversary mood.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we wrap things up, anything else you want to say?
Yeah, very excited, bro. Tonight really showed the adrenaline that the roster and everyone's going into Slammiversary. And once obviously we got one match down, once more matches pick up, we're really gonna get more intense promoting as we get to the pay-per-view, and I can't wait. I'm gonna be there at Long Island.
Are you gonna be there? Oh, that's dope, man.
Yeah.
So we've got, after tonight, we've got 5 episodes of Impact left before Slammiversary, which that's a lot to give you a proper build. You know what I mean? And again, we've already got one match. Again, one of the bigger matches. So yeah, that I would say that, again, it's always must see to pay attention to TNA, but if you decided that you wanted to watch Slammiversary, I would start watching now because they're laying the groundwork. Okay, well, with that being said, I want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you for your continuous support. Make sure you like and subscribe, and that way you can get notified of this video or whenever Body Slam goes live. And by the way, before we sign off, I always remind everyone where they can follow you at.
They can follow me at X at Frequency IO. Doing my thing. Doing my thing. Tweeting about movies, what's going on in the world, and then obviously pro wrestling.
TNA, about 1 million TNA tweets a day. You know what I mean? You should be on the payroll by now.
Yeah.
All right. You can follow me on Twitter at BurtMaclin11. And with that being said, we want to say bye, and we'll see you next week.
All right, peace.